Welcome back. Today I have Dr. Jacob Thomas, who is Hoag medical oncologist, and he's also an assistant professor of clinical medicine at the Keck School of Medicine at USC. And we were just talking beforehand, you have to drive up to USC, but you take the train instead, which is a nice way to go.
That's right, yeah, it's a lot better way than being stuck in traffic.
Exactly. So we're here to talk about innovative cancer clinical trials. Now, we've talked to a lot of different doctors who talk about clinical trials. Tell me a little bit about what kind of clinical trials you're referring to.
So we have clinical trials for all patients with different types of solid tumors. So that's breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, as well as many of the less common types of cancers.
Okay, all right, and exactly what is a clinical trial?
So there's a few different kinds of clinical trials. And what we're involved with is what's called phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials.
Okay.
So these are trials where we're testing new drugs or new combinations of drugs for patients with cancer, trying to find the newest, most innovative way of treating cancer.
Okay, so give me an example of some of the new drugs that you're testing, if you can tell me.
So a lot of people have heard on the news or seen ads on TV about immunotherapy.
Yes.
So that's kind of the hottest, biggest thing in oncology,
right?
Which is drugs that harness the power of the patient's own immune system to fight against the cancer. And so there have been some of those drugs that are FDA approved, but now we're trying to improve upon those even further by combining those drugs with newer immune therapy drugs, or just testing newer forms of immune therapy drugs.
So is the immunotherapy, is it a shot, or what exactly is the application?
So these are given intravenously.
Okay.
So through an IV that's placed, or some people have a port, which is kind of a semi-permanent IV that stays under the skin for easy access. But most of these are not pills. They're given through an IV, like a traditional chemotherapy.
Okay, and then what are some of the effects of immunotherapy? I mean, are there better side effects with that as opposed to chemotherapy?
Oh, much better in general. Chemotherapy, we think of the common side effects. Your hair falls out, you get nausea, vomiting, all of those horrible things that we associate with them. Immunotherapy in general tends to be a lot better tolerated for the majority of patients, but there is a minority of people that have more severe side effects to the immunotherapy. So there is a risk taking them because they can cause autoimmune diseases. We're trying to make the immune system fight the cancer, but sometimes the immune system will fight the patient's own organs, which can cause some more serious side effects. But those are not as common. Okay.
Now, phase 1 trial was what you're talking about for the clinical trials. How is that good for the community in a hospital setting?
So it's a great opportunity we have bringing this to the Orange County community, because traditionally phase 1 clinical trials are only available at major university centers. So a lot of people sometimes even travel to different states or farther, very, very far distances in order to get access to these clinical trials, to these treatments that are available. So having this locally here at Hoag will save people a lot of that trouble of having to travel, but still receiving the same university level type treatments.
Right, okay. And is this particular type of phase 1, is it something that their insurance would cover? Or is it because it's a trial type of thing?
Right, that's a great question and something a lot of people are concerned about. So the way clinical trials work is there are certain things we bill to insurance that you would have done either way. So CT scans, blood work, things like that. That gets billed to insurance, and insurance has no issue with that at all.
Oh, that's good.
And then the study treatments are paid for by the sponsor of the research. So that might be a government grant or a drug company. So those aren't billed to insurance at all. So this is no extra cost to the patient.
Well, that is certainly good to know. I'm sure everybody wants to hear that. Why should someone choose Hoag for a second opinion on treatment of their affected disease?
Yeah. So Hoag, because of this partnership we have with USC now, has these more advanced type of treatment available. And so anyone seeking to get a second opinion about the treatment for their cancer or if their cancer is not effectively being treated by standard treatments, should consider seeking a second opinion at a place like Hoag, because we have these types of innovative new treatments that might not be available in other areas.
Right, okay. And then I know you're also an assistant professor of clinical medicine at USC. Tell me how you bring in some of your experience with the clinical trials in your studies.
So because of my involvement with the university, I have access to basic science researchers. So frequently I'm meeting with people in the laboratory, coming up with new data, new ideas of new targets, new ways to come at cancer. And so with those kind of resources and that background, being at the university level, I'm able to kind of be on the forefront of things.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, because you wonder who's doing it first. Is it the hospital, or is it, like you said, the research? So that's good. You can kind of bring back and forth. Some interesting question regarding a placebo versus an actual treatment. I've always wondered how that does work. I mean, can you trick your mind into thinking that something is going to happen?
Right. So yeah, the placebo question is a big thing a lot of people are worried about when you hear about clinical trials.
Right.
People don't want to find out that they were given a sugar pill.
Oh yeah.
And that's definitely something we address. And with the early phase 1 or phase 2 clinical trials like we're doing at Hoag, usually those don't involve a placebo.
Okay.
And the only time we would bring in a placebo would be if we're trying to compare sometimes a new treatment to a situation where we don't know of any effective treatment.
Oh, okay.
So usually that doesn't happen. And usually if we're comparing these treatments, we'll compare it to another treatment that's known to be effective, but we're trying to find out if the new treatment is better than the old treatment.
Oh, okay.
But there still are some situations where maybe there's a cancer where we don't have an effective standard treatment. In those kinds of situations, placebo might be introduced into the trial to make sure that the new treatment is actually doing something.
Right, exactly. Okay. And then, a variety of different cancers. We've been trying to find a cure for a long time. Do you think we're anywhere closer?
We're definitely closer.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's been major advancements. We talked about immunotherapy as one example, and I can tell you from my personal experience, one example is a woman in her 40s, very young, diagnosed with colon cancer, spread throughout her body. She had gone down to below 100 pounds. She was about almost 80 pounds at one point. Her kidney was shut down because of the cancer, and she joined one of our clinical trials almost as a last-ditch effort. And I saw her after she'd been on the treatment for about 2 years. If you saw this woman on the street now, you would never know that she had terminal cancer at one point.
Wow.
She gained all her weight back, beautiful blonde hair, she's going horseback riding, she takes care of her daughter who's in school, completely back to her life. And no sign of cancer left in her body after 2 years on this treatment.
Oh, so 2 years from start to finish.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she's one of these examples of this miraculous response to immunotherapy, which unfortunately still is not common.
Right.
We've seen these. I have several patient stories just like that, that I've seen these almost miraculous responses. We're hoping through research that we get more and more of these stories to come.
Right. And immunotherapy is just a start. I mean, we also have precision medicine, and they're really targeting now the exact cancer treatments.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So that's another area where there's been major improvements.
Right. With
precision medicine. Kind of the best example of successful precision medicine is in a cancer called CML, which is a form of leukemia.
Okay.
There was a drug called Gleevec, or imatinib is the generic, that came out in 2001. And that changed CML from being a universally fatal disease. Everybody died within at least 10 years. Changed that to now people that started the drug in 2001 are still alive. Most of them are still alive. So it's now a chronic disease.
Right.
And people live very normal lives with CML.
Yeah,
so
that's
great. We've had lots of successes like that. And we're looking for more. So a lot of our clinical trials are also with precision medicine.
Okay, Great. Well, gosh, thank you so much for the information. You know, you always hear about clinical trials, so I'm glad that you were able to explain that to us. Thank you. It's nice to have you on.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And if you want more information about clinical trials, you can always call Hoag at 949-764-6130. We'll be right back after this.